Thanks for that. And it's very pleasing to be able to follow Ken Livingstone's contribution and the role that Ken has played in making this a really great city. I'm from Liverpool, and when I grew up in Liverpool, Liverpool was a very segregated city, and still is to some degree, in terms of population mix, not just along race lines, but also along religious lines, or it certainly was then. Just give you an example of how that operated. When I joined the post office many, many years ago, in a workforce of about some 3,000 to 4,000 workers, how many black people worked in the post office? 4,000 people? How many? One. One black person. And that was in a city that's probably the oldest black population in Britain. And why was that? Well, we examined that as a union and we sought to deal with that. So one of the things I like so much about living in London now is its diversity and the celebration of its diversity. Now, this CWU is an organisation of around 250,000 workers in the postal, telecommunications and the finance sector. Our membership expresses the growing diversity of the workforce and society as a whole. For example, in many of our major sorting offices in Royal Mail, our activists have campaigned to establish prayer rooms. This non-traditional demand represents a pressing need for many communication workers, such as prayer rooms are used by a variety of faiths and not just Muslims. But we believe that the workplace and the community, there must be facilities which reflect the traditional needs of multicultural society. And we've had serious conflicts with management about issues of religious holidays. For example, we've experienced difficulties in getting agreements for Muslims to take leave on Eid or Hindus on Diwali. Yet these same workers are expected to put in extra hours to clear mail at Christmas time and deal with problems in Royal Mail. But by and by, we're resolving the questions of the workplace. And trade unions are becoming increasingly aware of the serious issues attached to religious observance. Certainly, we had a major breakthrough this year at the TUC's Congress in September. A joint statement from the Muslim Council of Britain and the TUC endorsed, which lays the basis for joint work on issues of mutual importance. And we really do have a job of work to perform. The TUC's own research showed the need for addressing the problems of the Muslim community. 69% of Muslim community can be classified as poor, compared to 22% of the country at large. British Muslims are 3 times more likely to be unemployed than the majority white population. Such telling figures of social disadvantage are really brought to bear in media discussions. Yet it is obvious to all that discrimination exists against Muslims and that behind such figures, rather than the fictitious refusal of Muslims to integrate. And it really is a matter of life and death. We need a broad campaign to stand up against the demonisation of Muslims. We need to defend those freedoms we have which allow people to pray to their God that they worship. We need to defend the right of people to dress according to their taste. Now, as a lapsed Catholic, when people talk about the wear and the dress that people wear in their religion and what women wear, I grew up, I was taught by people who were clothed from head to foot apart from their face and their hands, and they were called nuns or mothers. And I'm old enough to remember the mantilla that you had to wear if you were a woman in a Catholic church. So when we talk about the religion and the differences between us, let us all be a little bit humble when we approach the subject of religion, because as was said by Ken, and absolutely the case, every time an issue is raised like Jack Straw raised, it fuels the BNP. Now, Jack Straw is a member of the government. Jack Straw is an important man. Nick Griffin is not an important man. Nick Griffin is a very, very dangerous man. But people like Griffin, the leader of the BNP, used to support their argument that if Jack Straw's saying it, it must have some credence, mustn't it? If Jack Straw's saying it, then what's wrong with the Mail saying it? What's wrong with the Sun saying it? What's wrong with the continue to fuel this demonisation of Muslims? But we've seen it before. We've seen it with the Irish community. We've seen it with other communities over the years. We've seen it with the Jewish community in the 1930s. I've got a message to those trade unions who think that this somehow is difficult. Remember this. When the trade unions marched in Cable Street to defend the Jewish community against the attacks of fascists, we didn't have a debate about Judaism, modern, historical, whatever. We stood shoulder to shoulder alongside them. And so today, when we find a community under siege, Muslims under siege, very, very simple trade unions, an injury to one is an injury to all. The trade union movement stands alongside this initiative. Thank you for listening to me tonight.